Every villain in the Super Mario Bros. Movie explained. Bowser. Bowser enters this film by doing something almost no animated villain does in the opening 5 minutes. He wins. Completely. Decisively. Without breaking a sweat. The Snow Kingdom. A peaceful civilization. The Penguin King stands his ground, refuses to hand over the superstar, and Bowser buries the entire kingdom under a mountain of ice like it's a minor inconvenience. No dramatic fight. No close call. Just absolute, total domination. The film is telling you something in those first few minutes. This isn't a villain you can outwit with a clever plan. This is a force of nature. And then, 20 minutes later, that same villain is sitting at a piano, surrounded by candles, performing a love ballad he wrote himself. About Princess Peach, called Peaches. And he means every single word of it. That whiplash is intentional, and it's the smartest thing the film does with him. Because here's what most people don't clock in that moment. Bowser isn't just comic relief. He's a villain whose entire motivation is emotional. He's not conquering kingdoms for power or territory. He's doing it to impress someone. He's the most feared creature in the mushroom world, and he just wants to belong somewhere. And that one detail makes him 10 times more dangerous than a straightforward conqueror. Because you can reason with ambition. You cannot reason with longing. Jack Black understood this completely. Every line he delivers carries that tension. The thunderous authority on the surface, the raw desperation just underneath it. It's a performance doing 2 things at once, and it never slips. His finale in Brooklyn is massive, chaotic, and deeply satisfying to watch unravel. But don't let that resolution fool you. The post-credits scene is the real punchline. Bowser, tiny and imprisoned, already scheming. You didn't defeat him, you just bought some time. And the villain coming up next is the one who's been quietly making sure Bowser's entire operation doesn't collapse from the inside. Do you think Bowser genuinely loves Peach, or is it obsession? There's a real difference, and the film might actually be drawing that line deliberately. Let me know what you think. By the way, if you enjoy deep dives into the Super Mario Bros. Movie like this one, consider subscribing. It would honestly mean a lot. Thanks. Anyways, Kamek. Every great villain has someone managing the chaos behind them. For Bowser, that's Kamek, the ancient Magic Koopa who has, by all appearances, been doing this exhausting job for his entire life. On the surface, Kamek looks like a yes man. He floats around on his broomstick, delivers updates, manages the troops, and spends a disturbing amount of energy validating Bowser's romantic delusions. But watch him more carefully, and you realize something. Kamek is actually the most competent person in the entire villain operation. Bowser brings the fire. Kamek makes sure everything actually works. He's the one coordinating the invasion fleet. He's the one who knows how to deliver bad news to Bowser without triggering an eruption. He's the one who has clearly developed a precise, battle-tested strategy for managing a king who is simultaneously terrifying and emotionally fragile. He operates from the background by design, and that's the most dangerous place to operate from. His magic is no joke either. Kamek can grow enemies to enormous sizes, a direct callback to his abilities in the games. And unlike every other villain in Bowser's circle, he doesn't need the spotlight to be effective. But here's the detail that most people overlook. Kamek actually seems to care about Bowser. Not just as a servant fulfilling an obligation, but as someone who has watched this king grow up and feels genuinely invested in him. And that's what makes him more than a prop. He's a character with a real relationship at the center of his story, which makes him the most quietly human villain in the entire film. For fans of the games, Kamek has been a thorn in Mario's side since Yoshi's Island, where he kidnapped baby Luigi and spent the entire game trying to stop baby Mario from reuniting with his brother. His role in the film is completely consistent with that legacy. Always serving, always scheming, always just dangerous enough to never be dismissed. The second Bowser escapes that prison, Kamek will be there waiting with a new plan. Count on it. But if Kamek is the brain of Bowser's operation, who's the muscle keeping the whole army in line? That's where the next villain comes in. The Koopa General. Here's something the film does quietly that most people don't register. It gives Bowser's army actual structure. The Koopa General doesn't get enormous screen time, but he represents something crucial. The idea that behind Bowser's spectacle is a real military machine with hierarchy, discipline, and chain of command. He's the one making the troops march in formation. He's the one on the ground when kingdoms fall, managing the operational details that Bowser is too busy being emotionally dramatic to handle himself. And he takes all of it deadly seriously. There's something quietly hilarious and quietly chilling about a turtle soldier conducting military operations with the gravity of a 5-star general. He's not winking at the camera. He's not playing it for laughs. He is committed. And that commitment is exactly what makes Bowser's army feel real, rather than cartoonish. Bowser brings the spectacle, Kamek brings the strategy, the Koopa General brings the discipline that holds the whole thing together. A conquering army needs all three, and the film was smart enough to show it. Now the next villain doesn't have an army, doesn't have magic, doesn't have fire, and yet he might be the hardest one to shake when the credits roll. Spike. Spike isn't a Koopa. He doesn't breathe fire or command armies. He's a guy from Brooklyn, and he might be the most psychologically effective villain in this entire film. He's Mario and Luigi's former boss, dismissive, condescending, built entirely around reminding people their failures. When their commercial flops, he's laughing. When they get a shot at redemption, he's rooting against them. He's not evil. He's just small. He's the voice that tells you your dreams are embarrassing, and the smart move is to accept your limitations. Most of us have heard that voice. By the end, when Mario returns to Brooklyn as something extraordinary, Spike is just still there, still small. Not a dramatic defeat, just irrelevance. Mario didn't beat Spike. Mario simply outgrew him. Who hit harder as a villain? Bowser destroying entire kingdoms, or Spike just laughing at Mario's commercial? Be honest, that's the most grounded villain on this list. Now we go in the complete opposite direction. A king who rules a mountain summit and takes himself extremely seriously, despite being, fundamentally, a living bomb. King Bob-omb. King Bob-omb is one of the funniest characters in this film, and the reason is devastatingly simple. He is a sentient bomb with a crown, and he carries himself like an ancient king. He has a throne, a mountain summit to rule over, strong opinions about honor and proper conduct in combat. None of this changes the fundamental reality that he is a round, black explosive with tiny legs and a fuse on his head. The joke is that he never acknowledges the joke. He plays it completely straight, and that's what makes every scene he's in work. Here's the game context that makes him land even harder. King Bob-omb was the very first boss in Super Mario 64. You reach his summit, and he challenges you to a formal duel. And if you throw him off the mountain, the most obvious move, he gets genuinely offended and refuses to count it. He has rules. He has standards. A bomb with a personal philosophy around combat ethics. That same energy is fully intact in the film. This isn't a throwaway character invented for the movie. He's a legacy villain showing up exactly as himself. King Bob-omb isn't just a joke. He's a joke with 30 years of principles behind it. The next villain doesn't get much dialogue, but his presence alone carries more weight than almost anyone else in Bowser's entire coalition. King Boo. King Boo doesn't say much in the Super Mario Bros. Movie. He doesn't need to. His design alone, large, translucent, crowned, wearing that unmistakable wide grin, communicates everything. But if you've never played Luigi's Mansion, you're missing exactly how significant his presence in that coalition room really is. King Boo is the reason Luigi has nightmares. He's appeared as the primary antagonist in Luigi's Mansion on GameCube, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon on 3DS, and Luigi's Mansion 3 on Switch. 3 games. Each time, he's the one pulling the strings, trapping Mario inside a painting, hunting Luigi through haunted hotels, commanding entire ghost armies. He doesn't just show up and cause trouble, he orchestrates it. And in the original Boo lore, these are ghosts that freeze the moment you look at them and rush you the second you turn away. King Boo is that energy amplified to a royal scale. Seeing him seated among Bowser's villains isn't a cameo. It's a promise that Luigi's story with this particular enemy exists in this universe, and it's waiting to be told. Now, the next villain has no story, no personality, no inner life whatsoever, and somehow it's one of the most terrifying things in the entire film. Bullet Bill. Bullet bills have been flying straight at Mario since 1985. Black projectile, determined expression, zero capacity for negotiation. In the games, they're a standard obstacle. Annoying, predictable, easy enough to avoid once you know the pattern. But there's a variant most casual fans don't know about. The Banzai Bill. A supersized version of the standard bullet bill introduced in Super Mario World that takes up half the screen and forces you to completely rethink your movement. Same energy, terrifying scale. The film took that exact concept and ran with it. The film asks one question and answers it beautifully. What if we made one the size of a building? The giant bullet bill that arrives in the third act doesn't think. It doesn't scheme. It simply exists to travel forward at terrifying speed and destroy whatever is in front of it. And after a film full of villains who monologue and feel things, a threat that is just relentless physics hits differently. It also recontextualizes Bowser's power completely. You can appreciate Kamek's scheming and the Koopa General's tactics. But when something that massive cuts through the sky, you stop thinking and start feeling. That's what Bowser's arsenal actually looks like at full scale. For fans who grew up jumping over these things in World 1-1, seeing one rendered at cinematic scale is pure wish fulfillment. One villain left. No dialogue. But possibly the most thematically loaded characters on this entire list. Shy Guys. The Shy Guys are easy to dismiss. They're henchmen, they're comic relief, they don't drive the plot forward. That would be a mistake. Shy Guys have been in the Mario universe since Super Mario Bros. 2 in 1988, one of the earliest enemy types Nintendo ever created. They showed up in Yoshi's Island, became staples in Mario Kart, Mario Party, and Paper Mario, and over the decades spawned entire variants: Fly Guys, Spy Guys, Boom Guys. They're not background noise. They're franchise DNA, and the film treats them that way. They wear masks. That's their entire identity. No face underneath. No secret to reveal. Just the mask, permanently. In a film fundamentally about Mario proving who he really is, showing up as his genuine self, the Shy Guys are the direct philosophical contrast. They have committed entirely to the disguise. They have no interest in being known. The Mario Kart racing sequence is packed with them, driving recklessly, wiping out spectacularly. And it's one of the great visual joys of the film. They celebrate when things go well and panic when things go badly. For characters with no face, they somehow have more personality than half the cast. Bowser's army had 8 villains. If you could add one more from the games into a sequel, who would it be and why? Drop it below.